The Oʻahu nukupuʻu was a small bird species native to the island of Oʻahu in Hawaii. It was a member of the honey creeper family and was known for its distinctive bill, which was long, curved, and used to probe into flowers to extract nectar.
Habitat and diet. The Oʻahu nukupuʻu was found exclusively on the island of Oʻahu in the Hawaiian archipelago. Its habitat was restricted to the wet forests of the island's high elevations, where it foraged on the nectar of flowering trees and shrubs. Its diet also included insects and spiders, which it gleaned from foliage and bark. Physical characteristics. The Oʻahu nukupuʻu was a small bird, measuring about 4.5 inches in length. It had a distinctive bill that was long and curved, with a narrow tip that was used for probing into flowers. Its plumage was primarily green, with a yellowish-green breast and a darker green back. It had a small, white patch on its forehead, and its wings and tail were edged in yellow. Decline in numbers. The Oʻahu nukupuʻu was never a common bird, even before the arrival of humans in Hawaii. However, its numbers began to decline rapidly in the late 19th century as a result of habitat loss, hunting, and the introduction of non-native predators such as rats and cats. Last sightings. The last confirmed sighting of an Oʻahu nukupuʻu was in 1837, although there were unconfirmed reports of sightings in the early 20th century. The bird was declared extinct in the 1980s, based on the lack of any confirmed sightings for over a century.
Historical accounts. There are few historical accounts of the Oʻahu nukupuʻu, as it was not a well-known or well-studied species. However, early accounts from European explorers and naturalists describe it as a small, colorful bird with a distinctive bill.
Habitat loss. The primary cause of the Oʻahu nukupuʻu's decline was habitat loss. The wet forests of Oahu's high elevations were cleared for agriculture, logging, and development, reducing the bird's available habitat.
Hunting. The Oʻahu nukupuʻu was also hunted for its feathers, which were used in Hawaiian cultural practices such as lei-making. While hunting was not the primary cause of its decline, it likely contributed to the bird's rarity and vulnerability. Non-native predators. The introduction of non-native predators such as rats and cats also had a significant impact on the Oʻahu nukupuʻu. These predators preyed on the bird's eggs, chicks, and adult birds, further reducing its already small population. Conservation efforts. Despite the Oʻahu nukupuʻu's extinction, conservation efforts continue to protect and restore the remaining habitats of other Hawaiian honey creeper species, many of which are also endangered. Importance of preservation. The loss of the Oʻahu nukupuʻu serves as a reminder of the importance of preserving the natural habitats and biodiversity of the Hawaiian Islands. It also highlights the need for continued efforts to protect and restore endangered species around the world. Unique evolution. The honey creeper family, to which the Oʻahu nukupuʻu belonged, was a group of birds that evolved uniquely in the Hawaiian Islands. With no other similar bird species on the archipelago, honey creepers evolved to occupy a diverse range of niches, including nectarivores, insectivores, and seed-eaters. Extinction in context. The Oʻahu nukupuʻu was just one of many Hawaiian bird species that have gone extinct since the arrival of humans on the islands. Hawaii has a high rate of species extinction due to its isolation and unique ecosystem, combined with habitat loss, hunting, and the introduction of non-native species. Impact on ecosystem. The loss of the Oʻahu nukupuʻu and other Hawaiian bird species has had a significant impact on the island's ecosystems. For example, the loss of nectar-feeding birds has affected the pollination of native plants, while the loss of seed-eating birds has affected the distribution of plant seeds. Cultural significance. Birds, including the Oʻahu nukupuʻu, were an important part of Hawaiian culture and mythology. They were often associated with specific gods and goddesses and were considered messengers between the human world and the spiritual realm. The loss of these birds is therefore not only a loss of biodiversity but also a loss of cultural heritage. Importance of research. The study and understanding of extinct species such as the Oʻahu nukupuʻu are essential for informing conservation efforts and understanding the impacts of human activities on the environment. By studying the bird's behavior, ecology, and genetics, researchers can gain insights into how it interacted with its environment and what factors contributed to its decline. Hope for the future. While the loss of the Oʻahu nukupuʻu is a tragedy, there is hope for the future of Hawaiian biodiversity. Conservation efforts, such as habitat restoration, predator control, and captive breeding programs, have helped to save other endangered Hawaiian bird species, such as the Maui parrotbill and the Hawaiian crow. With continued dedication and collaboration between scientists, policymakers, and communities, it may be possible to protect and restore Hawaiian ecosystems and prevent further extinctions.
Habitat loss. One of the primary factors contributing to the extinction of the Oʻahu nukupuʻu was habitat loss. As humans settled on the island and converted native forests into agriculture and urban areas, the bird's habitat shrank and fragmented, making it more difficult for the species to survive. Invasive species. Another factor that contributed to the Oʻahu nukupuʻu's extinction was the introduction of non-native species to the island. Rats, cats, and mongoose, introduced for pest control, preyed upon the bird's eggs and young. Non-native plant species also competed with native plants for resources, further reducing the bird's habitat.
Small population size. The Oʻahu nukupuʻu had a small population size, which made it more vulnerable to environmental disturbances, such as disease outbreaks, habitat destruction, and invasive species. With only a few hundred individuals remaining by the late 1800s, the species was already at risk of extinction before humans took direct action against it. Limited range. The Oʻahu nukupuʻu was limited to a small range on the island of Oʻahu, making it more susceptible to localized threats such as habitat loss and invasive species. With no other populations on other islands, the species had no way to expand its range or recolonize areas that were lost.
Sympatric species. The Oʻahu nukupuʻu coexisted with several other bird species on the island, including the Oʻahu ʻakepa, the Oʻahu ʻamakihi, and the Oʻahu creeper. These sympatric species may have competed with the nukupuʻu for resources, further reducing its chances of survival.
Ecological role. The Oʻahu nukupuʻu played an important ecological role in the Hawaiian ecosystem as a pollinator of native plants. As a nectar-feeding bird, it visited and pollinated many plant species that were adapted to its unique feeding behavior. The loss of the nukupuʻu and other nectar-feeding birds has had a cascading effect on the ecosystem, leading to reduced plant diversity and ecosystem function.
Conservation status. The Oʻahu nukupuʻu was officially declared extinct by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, in 2012. It is classified as a critically endangered species under the U.S. Endangered Species Act, and efforts are underway to protect and conserve other endangered Hawaiian bird species before they meet the same fate.
Lessons learned. The extinction of the Oʻahu nukupuʻu serves as a poignant reminder of the devastating impacts that humans can have on the natural world. It highlights the importance of conservation efforts, both to protect endangered species and to maintain the ecological balance of the planet. By learning from the mistakes of the past and taking action to protect biodiversity, we can work towards a more sustainable future for all species. Efforts to save the species. Efforts to save the Oʻahu nukupuʻu were initiated in the early 1900s, when the species was still relatively abundant. These efforts included the establishment of bird sanctuaries and the introduction of predator control measures. Captive breeding. In the 1970s, scientists attempted to breed the Oʻahu nukupuʻu in captivity, hoping to increase the population and eventually reintroduce the species to the wild. Unfortunately, these efforts were unsuccessful, and the last known individual of the species died in captivity in 1987. DNA analysis. In 2012, DNA analysis was conducted on museum specimens of the Oʻahu nukupuʻu, confirming the species' extinction. The analysis also revealed that the nukupuʻu was most closely related to the Maui nukupuʻu, another extinct Hawaiian bird species.
Importance of museum collections. The museum specimens of the Oʻahu nukupuʻu that were used for the DNA analysis are a valuable resource for scientists studying the species and its extinction. They also serve as a reminder of the importance of preserving biodiversity and the role that museum collections play in conservation efforts.
Conservation efforts for other endangered Hawaiian bird species. While the Oʻahu nukupuʻu is now extinct, efforts are underway to protect and conserve other endangered Hawaiian bird species, including the Hawaiian crow, the alala, and the palila. These efforts include habitat restoration, predator control measures, and captive breeding programs. Cultural significance. The Oʻahu nukupuʻu, like many other Hawaiian bird species, held cultural significance for native Hawaiians. The bird was revered for its beauty and was featured in Hawaiian legends and chants. Its extinction is therefore not only a loss of biodiversity but also a loss of cultural heritage. Traditional Hawaiian practices. Native Hawaiians had a close relationship with their natural environment and practiced sustainable resource management, including hunting and gathering practices that did not harm the ecosystem. The loss of the Oʻahu nukupuʻu and other native species is a result of the disruption of these traditional practices by Western colonization and development.
Cultural revitalization. Efforts are underway to revitalize Hawaiian culture and restore traditional practices that prioritize conservation and sustainability. These efforts include language revitalization, cultural education, and the incorporation of traditional knowledge into conservation management strategies.
Importance of indigenous knowledge. Indigenous knowledge, including traditional ecological knowledge, is an important resource for conservation efforts. Native peoples have a deep understanding of their local ecosystems and have developed sustainable practices over generations. Incorporating this knowledge into conservation efforts can help protect biodiversity and maintain ecosystem health.
Global significance. The extinction of the Oʻahu nukupuʻu is not an isolated incident but rather part of a larger trend of biodiversity loss worldwide. Species are becoming extinct at an alarming rate due to human activities, including habitat destruction, climate change, and the introduction of invasive species. The loss of biodiversity has significant impacts on ecosystem function, human livelihoods, and cultural heritage.
Urgency of conservation. The extinction of the Oʻahu nukupuʻu highlights the urgency of conservation efforts. It is essential to protect and conserve endangered species before they become extinct, as once a species is lost, it can never be recovered. By working towards conservation and sustainable development, we can help prevent future extinctions and ensure a healthy and vibrant planet for future generations.